Commission to order. And Valerie, if you'll call the roll, please.
Virginia Willis here. And yes, Tom Nate.
He's out there. He's gonna keep his distance tonight. He's
Mr. Cap,
here.
Joni Manson.
Here.
And Brittany Hoppers here.
All right, thank you, Valerie. And I don't think we have anyone joining us online. At this point, if we do, I'll explain the procedures to them at that time. And our other township officials with us this evening is a trustee, Matt Yeager. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Well, we're gonna jump right into you tonight, Scott. We're not gonna be doing any other kinds of things, just a couple of announcements real quick regarding the meeting minutes that I have listed here. Valerie's gonna be working on those. She, because of having to go back and listen to and listen and watch the videos of some of our meetings, she had put in a request and had it approved to order some equipment that will help her accomplish that in a more efficient manner. So she just told me that the equipment has arrived today, but she doesn't have it unboxed yet. So she'll get that done, and that will help to expedite getting the minutes prepared, especially when she has to go back and listen in order to, because you don't want a full transcription, but she still has to pay attention, and it's much harder without having that kind of, it's sort of like a dictating machine. She can use her foot to start and stop the messages or what's recorded, and then type what she needs to type. So she'll get busy with that. Valerie, I want to ask you real quick. I wanted to get these minutes out to everyone as soon as we can. When do you think that you would be able to do these two, the 12/11 and or have it ready to email out?
2/12. I'm gonna try to get both done this week.
Oh, this week, okay.
2/12, I'm 90% of it, about 30 minutes left to transcript one. And then I'll start the December 11th. So I'm gonna try to get through this week. I'll let you know by Thursday.
Okay, well, that'd be great, because that's plenty of time. We want to get them so we can provide any feedback to you, and then you can make any corrections before the April 1st meeting.
Exactly.
Okay.
Top of the list.
Very good, thank you. And then when you do have them ready, send them both out together rather than separately.
Okay.
So just hold the 12th, because you're gonna finish it first until you have the
Okay.
December one completed. All right, Scott, back to you now. We have, all have copies, hard copies of the Article 4 definitions that you revised, revisions in Article 7 and 8, and then also the new one you just sent to me late today. We all have a copy of that one too, planned commercial and office district. Scott forwarded that to me because he thought we would get through and still have time left in our meeting tonight of Articles 7 and 8. So hopefully we will, Scott. And let's see, Matt, did you have a copy? You want one? I think I've got an extra one up here.
Okay.
You have an extra one over there, Val? Oh, okay.
Never know who's gonna stop.
All right, so Scott, how do you want to go through this now?
Well, I mean, we can just start with definitions, just so I can tell you.
Yeah,
One thing I noticed, right, either after or before, well, before I said it, not like I regretted it. Well, we had talked about the agriculture section needing to be in the definitions.
right.
And then that way, back in those other areas, it can be a lot simpler. The thing that I noticed later was that I had marked a place for net density on that fourth page, 404. And then I thought, well, I won't send that because we didn't really talk about that, whether that needed to be there or not, because you don't want to define that. Because you want to give yourself flexibility to define it where you want it later. Or maybe you do, I don't. But I don't know if now is the time you wanted
It's a
to
good question.
break that open. Because then I have a little note, I mean, that's just my language there in bold that says the definition of net should be in the districts. I thought. Otherwise, I think that's all already in your definitions.
Yeah, I don't think when we talk net density that we exclude ponds and lakes and stuff like that. I think it's just recorded easements and rights of way.
That's for determining the net acreage for
Oh,
zone
okay,
change. And I
okay. Okay,
don't
well,
know
this
that
is
this
density.
definition, as
Okay,
I'm reading it, it wouldn't be applicable to that. Am I
right, no, this is, you're right, density, I was thinking acreage. I got acreage on the mind.
Right, so density would be in a PRD where you factor those things in.
Right.
But the definition maybe should just say. When the acreage involved excludes certain items as noted within the district, and that way you can define it later.
For net acreage.
Yeah, instead of putting streets easement, instead of defining it at all here. That way your definition should never be a regulation. Your definition should just be
Yeah, because
a description of work.
I mean, as you've got it
Mm.
here, should be in the districts as needed, and this one is much more restrictive than I think you want anywhere, so that. What do you think? Members?
No.
Is that?
Page 404, thank you.
Developable acres.
I know they weren't clipped separately. Yep.
Well. Ow. Sorry, the net developable acres. Is what you have as a number, and then you multiply that by your density, and that's what gives you your net density. So the acreage and the density are related, but they are two different things.
Because I don't see a definition for net developable acres anywhere in this article. Or the article.
Which, again, you would want to be real general with that too, and just say. Net acreage is the. Acreage that is left over after subtracting out certain. Quality items as defined within a specific district. But I don't know if that's something that needs to be in a definition, because when you say, here's where. In whatever PRD. Your net developable acreage includes your acreage minus these items. And so it's pretty obvious what. I don't know that it needs a definition.
So may not, what you're saying is there may not be a need to include it as a defined item in the definition section, because it will appear in each zoning district.
Well, the planned districts.
Yeah, I mean, net acreage will, and net density, what you're actually using to make that. Calculation will be in each district.
And that is clearly identified and defined within the articles.
Yeah,
I don't,
I think as far as definitions go, gross density could be defined as the number of dwelling units per gross acreage, and net density could be defined as the number of dwelling units per net acreage. If we wanted to keep
Yeah.
a definition. But I don't know that we actually need a definition of this.
we don't want to make it more confusing. So, which is the less confusing way to do this?
Well, you do want to define. What you mean by the word density, and so then you, I guess, have to put I mean, it kind of has to be worded a little bit the way that it is now. But I think it can say. Net density is the number of dwelling units per acre of land. When the acreage involved excludes certain items as defined within each district.
Yeah, I'm inclined, I guess, to go that direction with it and not be specific in terms of identifying what would be excluded. Because once we would do it here that way, then that would be applicable in all instances, and there may be a need for variation on that
Mhm.
within each of the zoning districts. What you're suggesting seems like it would work better.
I'm not terribly familiar with every word of every article. Is net acreage defined in every single article? Is that what we're saying?
It is in the plan districts, and that's what primarily would be referring to in terms of identifying the land that's going to be excluded.
But my, I think it's inconsistent, things that find from one district to another, and that was part of the problem, that we want to pull those kinds of definitions out and have a single definition that every district refers to. But sometimes it says right away, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it says.
Are you talking about density or are you talking about net acreage?
That was, my question was about net acreage.
Yeah, I think, that that's two different ways of defining that, net acreage versus, in this case, we're talking about density. You didn't put a net acreage definition in here again, did you, Scott?
I did not put one, no.
So,
I think Tom looked for one. I don't have that page,
At the end.
but I don't think Tom found one, right? Is that what you?
I think what Tom's saying is that he wants us to be consistent, and I'm not disagreeing. We're talking about the net acreage. If we
Actually,
were to
yeah,
have-
you do have a definition. Net developable area, parentheses acreage. A land area measured by acreage determined by deducting 10% of the subdivision's gross acreage for streets and utilities. And by deducting all otherwise unbuildable areas as follows: wetlands, floodplains.
But that's only for developable, that's not just for a straight
Right,
zoning change, there's no straight net
Yeah.
acreage definition, right?
correct.
Yeah, what we're trying to determine is a common definition for net acreage. If we leave that in, we decided we'd take it out of the 5 acres, I think,
Mhm.
Yes.
but we've had discussion about keeping it in the 2 acres. Now, it's been suggested by one of the trustees that it come out altogether. And we not have net acreage for the 2 acre lots.
You do have net acreage for the 2 acres.
But he's saying a trustee has suggested that we don't.
We've gone back and forth on that. For the last
I mean,
many years.
it was in the form of discussion that we had when we last presented the information.
Well, and I think as Tom brought up last time, it's okay to not have it in 5 because we're not really at risk of getting ourselves 1 acre lots if we take the net portion out of a 5 acre lot.
Yeah.
But if we're down at 2 acres and we take that net portion out, we can end up with some really tiny lots.
Yeah.
So I'm in favor of leaving it for FR1.
Me too.
Leave
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 net
it.
for-
we would determine, there would be a need to have 2 net acres in order for it to be changed to FR1.
Yes, that's what I'm in favor of.
Well, do we need to put it anywhere then, except in the article? The FR1 article?
I like Brittany don't have a good enough knowledge of our zoning to know whether or not it's in things like,
Well,
I don't even know what.
I think the only 2 places that it had been in there, and I could be wrong, I'd have to go back, do it like a word search and see,
Yeah.
but would have been in the
AR,
FR1 and the AR1.
then I'm fine with just leaving it in FR1.
If it's only applicable in FR1, then.
Yeah,
Tom, where do you think it would be confusing to put it?
When I do this, it is in the R2 district. But let's call out, not areas, all less than 1 net acre.
but R2 shouldn't really matter anymore because we've made it so that,
You can,
yeah,
yeah.
you can't have R2, so.
And Scott crossed that one out in our last version of it.
Yeah, what's been adopted doesn't have that in it then,
Right,
lot area.
yeah.
So,
Well, if that's applicable to everyone in terms of the net acreage only fitting in, we only really need it in the FR1, then that's different from net density.
Yeah,
that's what I was gonna say. So you need to leave net developable acre. Net developable area. In your definitions,
Yes,
because that's not what your FR1 is referring to.
correct.
Right.
no,
That's
it is
for-
I
not.
just want to make sure we were,
That's for planned districts.
That's definitely not. All right, sounds like we are basically reaching agreement that we don't necessarily need an additional definition for net acreage
Net density.
nor density. So we just take this out and just say density, a unit of measurement expressing the number of dwelling units per acre of land, period. Whether referring to, doesn't matter. If you use the word density, that would be the definition. So you can delete
Right.
gross and net.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
because I think. Maybe I don't need to say this again. Maybe we said this 3 times, but
All right.
yeah, I think keeping it simple and then having that within a district. That says, well. It's not just per acre in this district, it's per net acre. I think that simplifies it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, farm residential, Scott. So we just kind of go through page by page. Is that the way you would like to do it? I mean, we've talked about some of this, but we've got the copies now. This would be, I got farm residential up on top, but do you want to do 7 first? It's 7 comes before 8, but that would be Article 7, agriculture residential district.
Yeah, I mean, I hope we've talked about all of it.
Yeah,
because
we went through these, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, it's markup, everything's red. It's not, hey, I use a different color since the last meeting.
Yeah, I don't think
Just
that we,
all updated.
I mean, this just shows all the changes and then.
Yeah.
Matt, for your information, and this will be the way it'll be. Once we get to the point where we recommend, this will be the way it'll be presented to the trustees.
We do.
Um,
We do.
Obviously, once it's approved, then the changes will all be accepted. And you have a clean copy that'll go up online.
Fine, okay. Before we leave the definition. Back to agriculture for a moment.
Oh, back to agriculture. Okay, yeah, this is the same. I didn't make a word for word comparison, but this is the same as the one we've seen previously, right, Scott? Now you've put it into the definition section.
This, I made sure that I use the current. It's somewhere between 51902 and 25, so
Mhm.
Yeah,
I tried to be word for word of what's in there.
okay. All right, Tom, go ahead.
One small thing, the word verb bearing on 4th line. Next and in particular sentence. That really wasn't my point.
For bearing spelled wrong, okay.
Well, it
Oh.
was-
Got an extra N in there.
But largely because my experience with home cultivation, I went back and looked at this definition, which calls for fur-bearing animals. It doesn't specifically say dogs are included or dogs are not included. If you go to our definition of domestic animals, basically cats and dogs. Do we want to define it so that agriculture includes them or excludes them or leaves it?
That's how we got the, idea that having any kind of a program, whatever you might want to call it, an operation dealing with dogs would be agriculture, because a dog is fur bearing. So does that mean,
I don't know what it was, but we were told specifically at one point by the prosecutor's office
I know,
that, you know,
no, so where did that come from? What's that mean about the hairless dog then? Or the hairless cat?
No fur.
There are breeds
mm,
that are hairless, so they're not fur bearing.
animal husbandry.
Well, maybe,
I don't know.
so,
We think animal husbandry for like gerbils and rabbits.
Are you wanting them included or are you not wanting them included?
I would prefer to keep them out of it. Raising cats and dogs is not being involved in agriculture.
Okay.
And it's not covered by this exemption. And I think
Um,
dog kennels, you tell me if there's.
well, I'm not
See,
with the prosecutor's office, but I mean, just sitting here, I would think if you were raising dogs, you could probably make an argument that you're in this definition, but if you're kenneling them and people are coming and going, I don't see how that's agriculture, you know? I mean, you're providing a
There are dog
service,
breeders,
you're
yes.
commercial, but
now,
I'm not Peggy Hall, who makes a living defining what agriculture is, much to the chagrin of people that ask her.
Mhm.
yeah, and.
Well-
We were told pretty straightforward, you can't exclude dogs from that. I don't buy it.
can we not though keep them, that difference that Scott is identifying, keep that as something that would be dealt with in each individual article so that you would have to have a conditional use permit, because that's the way we set it up initially for kennels. Have to go to the BCA to get approval.
I don't think we can solve it today.
I'd rather have a kennel than a puppy mill.
I think if you leave it worded like this, and then in your plan commercial, you have, and I think you already do. I think everybody's got either conditional use or kenneling as a commercial use, and then fight that fight the first time or the next time somebody comes in and tries to get around it and see what, force the prosecutor to tell you what triggers that. Does that sound like a passive
So-
aggressive way to do it?
Yeah.
Listening to what you're saying is what I'm hearing then is you don't see a need to make any changes in the definition as we have it here.
I think the fact that it's just copied from the ORC,
Right.
I don't think we need to.
I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah. Because it's consistent with the revised code because it's copied from it. All right, Tom, going forward, okay? Agriculture district as Article 7. We've gone through it previously, as been indicated, and Scott's just brought it up to date. As you look through it, Scott, is there anything that you need to point out? There weren't any additional changes, I think I heard you say.
Well, I can flip back and forth and tell you that under D, the items that were marked out are just what we decided were sufficient to refer back to the definitions.
Mhm.
1 and 2 under that, they were their own letters, but they shouldn't have been. I think at some point they got
Yeah, I remember that.
unfortunately formatted that way, so those just fit under agriculture. Temporary structures we simplified and have to remember to go back and add them. Well, I did, but you have to remember to adopt those later. Cause that'll apply to every district then, right?
Right.
And all that says is you need to get a temporary structure while you're
And that's
constructing through a permit.
the references to these sections. Those sections were submitted to the trustees and they have been approved.
Is that
Like
one of the ones
limited
that
home
we-
occupation,
Yeah, the
We had that?
2117 and
2117,
2118.
yeah. it's all, that's already been processed.
Yeah.
Under conditional uses. You took out that discussion before, I don't know if everyone has been here when we've had these discussions, but there is no permit or hasn't been in the past of compliance issued by the zoning inspector. It's simply an action taken by the Board of Zoning Appeals, so that's why that wording was changed. Page 704. This. We've got that 2116 now approved.
Mhm.
Six.
In 706A, why did we change that from net to gross? I don't remember that conversation.
Page.
7.06 in lot area,
Page 707.
page 707, section 7.06.
Okay, yeah, you're
That's
ahead
not
of.
confusing. And lot area, why did we change that from gross, from net to gross? I don't remember.
Because we said,
We're not really at risk for getting lots that are crazy small if we say gross. And so it will still be well above the 2 acre that is the township minimum.
It's just confusing if like everything else is net, 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 and then all of a sudden we're like.
The only net is in
only
farm
gonna,
residential.
Okay,
it's only gonna be in twos. This is for 5 acres.
okay.
Well, and the other concern was that the law says that you can just go in and record a 5 acre lot without getting anybody's approval.
Yeah,
So then you could easily have somebody that does that. And then they have an easement across. And they've now created,
right.
which again, if it was potentially gonna be a problem, that's on them. But since it's probably not gonna be a problem, then you've got a lot that you kind of have to admit doesn't conform, even though. Well, it doesn't, because it would be net and you would take that out.
Well, we had that happen in more than one instance, and basically, we brought those lots into compliance because they were changing them from AR1 to FR1. But they were non-conforming lots at 5 acres. They were non-conforming lots because they didn't conform to the net acreage requirement. And that would still happen today if we left the
Yeah.
word net in there.
Yeah,
AEP came and took that big chunk out for the power line and our net dropped below 5. Our
Yeah.
frontage is also not big enough.
Well, and then for that reason, if you have 5 acres and change this, potentially your lot could then be divided if you could somehow make it work.
I don't think I can because of my frontage, but
yeah. And nobody's gonna want to put their house under those lines.
yeah,
Yeah.
probably true. And they're right sort of in the middle of our
Yeah.
unused chunk. We've got land behind them and land in front of them, but
Yeah, that's what,
Yeah.
that's what makes it really bad.
yeah,
And then land behind it probably isn't big enough to put a house back there.
no, probably not. I've thought about, should we do FR1 and then try to sell that land to the people on Covan behind us so that they could actually use it and access it, because we're split down the middle, but we haven't got that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay,
Is that okay now, Brittany?
thank you.
Okay, sure.
Mike, can you repeat what you were saying about conditional use permit? The original permit? I mean, it wasn't.
It's just approved by the BZA as opposed to receiving a permit of compliance issued by the zoning inspector. We don't have a permit of compliance. We've only ever sent them to the BZA.
So when it says in sorry, on page 703, 704A. Addressed through the conditional use permit procedure.
Under expanded home occupation, is that where you are, Tom?
Yes, yes. Is there a permit procedure or is it conditional use?
And this becomes a conditional use if it's expanded.
You should probably just say conditional use procedure.
And then.
But they write something up, don't they? On the BZA. And then it becomes. I've never been on the BZA, but I think they do write up some sort of permit that you have to follow this. And they don't call it a permit though, do they?
No, since Mike has come in, they are documenting it much better than it used to be documented in the past, because basically in the past, what it amounted to was what was stated in the meeting became part of the minutes, and then a letter. Well, at least when I was on, we sent a letter which included that, what the
Mhm.
conditions were. I'm not sure exactly how they're doing it now. Mike's not here, we can't ask him, but he was creating, or I think he did create a form that they're now using for that when they make a decision.
Hmm,
And they're documenting it better in
Okay.
terms of being able to follow up in the future when it's a conditional use.
So we might want to just call that addressed through the conditional use procedure without the permit there.
Next to the fourth line down, it gets older conditions.
Yeah. We can double check with Mike to make sure he hasn't really created a conditional use permit
Permit.
form.
Yeah, it
It's
might
not
just be
that-
like an agreement form or something.
Yeah,
Cause I think,
but-
don't both parties have to sign that they're agreeing to follow that list of stuff that the BZA said they had to?
First paragraph, designation by the Board of Zoning Appeals that a permit is permanent, maybe that it has a conditional use permit. Control of land does not affect. I mean, if you don't have a permit, you should take the word permit out of this.
I agree. I need to verify
Verify
with
with
Mike,
Mike.
because I know he and I talked about that, and I don't know for sure what he did with that.
I mean, in your BZA chapter, section 28, there are some references to a permit.
Hmm.
Whether it's a piece of paper that's a permit or not, or just the idea of you're permitting them to use it or to do what they are asking to do. It says the board shall make its decision within a reasonable time after the hearing. In the event the board approves a conditional use permit, comma, it may impose such blah, blah, blah.
And that section,
28.
The one on the BZA.
And then the BZA can revoke a conditional use permit for failure to comply.
There was, yeah,
So I
So we
think
gotta
that
call it something.
the issue was more that it's not the zoning inspector's permit, it's the BZA's thing. And so I don't think we need to do a word search for.
and that's why we changed the wording at the end and say no conditional use shall be implemented until approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals. But what we need to verify is whether or not, if Mike were here, we could ask him. How about it?
Tell him he needs to do.
From Ballard, have you been there long enough to know if they're using an actual permit form now?
There's an affidavit. There's so many forms, which that's where.
Well, actually, you guys go ahead. I'm gonna make a quick look and see if they've got forms up on the website. Let me look real quick and see if they put one up there.
That wouldn't be up there because that's written up by the BZA. It's not something that somebody
Form.
applies
It still
for.
could be a blank form that they're using.
It shouldn't be, because then public would have access to filling it out, and they shouldn't be filling it out.
Well, the BZA may want them to fill it out. Doesn't mean
They
it doesn't
shouldn't.
get filled out. Doesn't
I
mean.
mean,
it
it's up
gets-
to the
it's
BZA to
approved.
decide what the conditions are, not somebody else.
Right, but I'm just saying the form could be there. The conditions would not, can say for office use only,
Mhm.
you know, or that portion.
this may not help, but on the, this year's schedule of zoning fees, at the very bottom, Board of Zoning Appeals application for a variance or condition. It's saying they've got a permit, I guess or not, so I guess that
Now, apparently we use the word permit all through the section on the BCA. And
Yeah,
it's pretty much all through the conditional uses area, probably in every single chapter, the article that we've gotten here.
To make a
Yes.
permit.
that's what I'm, that's what I'm telling.
It's on the top of whatever they're using.
And there's the app, this is the form that they have. They do have a form, application for variance or conditional use. That's new. Mike has added that since he.
I mean, the permit could just be a copy, you have to send the minutes to the person and say, here are
Well,
the.
yes,
conditions
because
that
at
can
the
be here.
bottom of the form, just what you're saying, acceptance or denial of application by the Harlem Township BZA. So that identifies whether it's approved or not, and each member signs it. What we don't have is any indication if it's a conditional use, the declaration of those conditions.
Yeah.
That's not on specified on here anywhere.
It seems like something we should have from the BZA regardless of what we call it in our code. It seems like having something more concise than the minutes where those conditions are written out and can be filed for us and handed to the property owner would be a good idea, but that's the BZA's problem.
Yeah. So maybe we should go ahead and shall we leave the word permit as is?
I think so, because it's
If you
gonna,
change one, you're gonna have to,
it's here in 8
Go
as
through.
well, and all the other ones. Every place where conditional use is a possibility, we're gonna come across that.
Oh, yeah.
So it seems like leaving it there would be fine.
Okay. They just need to have a way of documenting it. And right now, there doesn't seem to be one.
Mm.
Okay, going forward, let's see, we were up to 707 and then we went back. So we'll go back to that, page 707. Broad area,
yeah, everything else is just numbers.
yeah.
I mean, I spelled out numbers. We didn't change any.
Changed.
I think I caught.
I haven't seen any so far.
On page 708,
J.
rear yard setbacks. G,
And an I.
it says 8 and it should be 80.
What, where? What?
In G, on page 708,
Your rear yard.
Okay. But did you say there was something in I and J?
That was just the number thing, but I'm. That's the time if you don't want to leave it. That's on page 76.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments in Article 7? I went through page 709. Didn't have any more.
Not have any.
yeah, that's
All
fine.
right.
But I do see where Virginia was pointing out on page 706.
Yeah, that's sort of those two.
Okay.
I mean, how often do you have cemeteries?
Hmm?
How often do you have new cemeteries? But we should fix it if it's.
Not too many.
Well, this may, the next, making those changes then, Scott, will be at a point where we will potentially we can, at some point in the future, not too distant future, we can approve it and hold it until such time as we want to present it as a, like we did the last time.
Mhm.
More than one goes to the
The trustees.
trustees for approval
I
and
would think
submit
if we do AR1 and FR1 together, that would.
AR1, FR, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
and then I don't know whether we'll have any planned, like the planned commercial district, whether we wanna.
Yeah,
I'll put that one in too, we'll see.
yeah.
The more we can do at the same time, I think the better we would be. so we don't keep coming back.
Potentially, I also though think with AR1 and FR1, getting them in sooner rather than later is probably a benefit since they are.
Yeah,
Or
well,
both
we'll see how quickly we can do the PCD. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll do it all done tonight.
It's very optimistic thinking.
All right. So
Yeah.
this is essentially completed now. It's the changes that Scott's going to make, and then we are ready to go on this one. All right. And now, farm residential. Article 8. Same thing, same process, I mean. If we got through Article 7, this one may be faster. And we do have, in this one, we left the definition in here. Instead of saying the same language that we used in AR1. We had some discussion about that before. We want to modify this.
Which one?
On page
Sorry about
81,
D, agriculture, permitted uses, agriculture. Under, and this is farm residential. Are we gonna leave all these things in here?
well, let's ask Scott what his reasoning was for not changing this.
Did we mark that?
I don't remember.
Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, I put, yeah, my note was copy and then for some reason it didn't happen, so
Okay,
just assume that.
I
I'll fix that.
thought that was the direction we had moved, but
My first thought was we wanted to make sure FR1 people knew all that, but I did have a note to copy that other section directly over. So I'll fix that.
so D in Article 7 would read the same as D in Article, I'm sorry, in Article 8 would read the same as in Article 7.
Yes.
Is everyone comfortable with that?
Yeah. Okay, and what about the E for the temporary structures? Is that gonna be the same as well? In Article 7, you just changed it.
Yeah. That's not the right. Yeah, okay.
I'm not totally comfortable with the two. The 5 acre and the 2 acre having the same definition there. But 5 acres is clearly protected from the ORC and that. My knowledge is not. And is there anything about large scale agriculture that we don't want to have in on 2 acre lots? You know, I would say it's unlikely to have cornfields and bean fields on a 2 acre lot, since you're gonna get a combine in, it's starting to run. Why would anybody do that? Why would anybody bother? And for the rest of it, it's small scale agriculture, truck farms, beekeeping. Why not?
Chickens. Chickens.
Would that mean that say a 2 acre lot couldn't be farmed? Then?
No, I think we should allow that.
What I'm saying is, maybe if you leave them identical. The practical matter is that they're not gonna be identical. No one's gonna farm a 2 acre lot the way they would farm a 100 acre lot.
Right.
That makes sense. I've talked or something.
Talk yourself out of it. Okay.
I was gonna say, unless it's.
Is there another
contiguous
term
to
that you
another
think would be better than
parcel.
farm residential?
Change the name of the district.
No, let's not, let us not go there.
I mean, it could be a 4.5 acre. Anything under 5 acres.
Yeah,
I think we always assume that it'll go down to 2, but. I know you still can't do large scale farming on
Yeah.
4.5 acres, but
but you can have a, vegetable garden of some sort and
I I have
a couple of acres.
Yeah, well, and I specifically, I know
Yeah.
an individual who in fact, has a like 2.5 acre lot and they grew. Commercially, they were growing flowers
Mhm.
and then they were selling these cut flowers. I mean,
Yeah.
that was actually over in Genoa Township.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't see a
So
problem with that.
that's farming.
Yeah.
Horticulture. So, I guess changing it, making that definition the same, that keeps us consistent in that regard.
Yeah. And I would,
Temporary structure,
yeah, I'd make that the same too.
limited home occupation. That's fine. We took out, or did we? No, we didn't. We still have expanded home occupation in here as a conditional use. And, in the FR one, and we did, I know at one point we had some discussion about that. Possibly taking it out, but, I don't know if we put off finalizing that decision, or we just decided to keep it in.
Are we taking notes, basically?
Conditional use or expanded home occupation.
It's really where I focus on this article is how the conditional uses should or should not match a 5 acre parcel, or the things that we don't want to see, but we allow on 5 acres that we wouldn't want to see. And there, I start thinking about things that are more that fit into commercial or industrial use. That we might allow on a 5 acre lot, might have to allow on a 5 acre lot. Certainly don't allow 2 acre.
Well, there are some of those things, and I think we did discuss that before, but I'm not seeing them changed here. I think we decided that having a landing field and hangars for aircraft is
think-
probably not a great idea in farm
I
residential.
think we took those out.
It's still here. So
Right.
I'm not sure this is the most recent thing that we talked about.
I thought, yeah, I thought we took out private landing fields in Hanley. But, does anyone else remember that?
Yes, I marked that.
There's
And you marked that.
there's an exemption to laws if you have an aviation related to agriculture.
Like crop dusting kinds of things. That may be true, but I
I
would,
remember, I don't want
I would not want a crop duster in on a 2 acre property.
What if there's multiple contiguous 2 acre property?
Mm. Most of them are gonna have houses on them too, so you're gonna be crop dusting houses.
Well, all we took out were B and then D.
And we took out C for sure. It's been changed.
Yeah, C was already out.
Um,
So I
I-
mean,
I-
I was making these changes and at one point I had the revised date at the bottom changed to date, and then I opened it up and it had an actual date in there, so maybe something happened with my
okay, so the
copy.
private landing fields
But I did mark that to go out.
to be deleted. Yeah, I thought that's what Jody and I were remembering.
What page are you on, folks?
805
B. I think that was just.
That would just mean that all the other items would be renumbered or lettered.
Yep.
So, because B would come out and then it just goes forward from there. B, unless we take out another one.
Well, then the convalescent homes are out too, because that's not the right language anyway, and that's
The convalescent homes.
covered elsewhere.
that whole thing.
Yes,
In the kindergarten or child care facilities, I see as having a function in a 2 acre neighborhood.
Yeah, I think you all discussed that that was worth keeping it.
and they have boarding kennels. We have boarding kennels on 5 acre lots. We also want them on 2 acre lots.
Since it has to go through the BZA anyway.
You know what that one on Robbins is on?
Do we want to take it out
It's
of
got a big
the
space.
2 acre lots?
I would say no.
And as long as it goes through the BZA and they put the conditions in on them, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, but conditions, you can't put noise conditions on it. That's the main area.
No. You put a stipulation though on how much of your property it uses, so if you can only use, you know, a quarter of an acre.
Well,
To have a kennel, does that limit your number?
Well, we still say it can't be located closer than 300 feet from the lot line of any residence, church, school, or any institution of human care. So on a 2 acre lot,
Mhm.
if they have 175 feet of frontage and the next door neighbor has
Yeah.
175 feet of frontage, I don't know.
They're probably not gonna be able to do it
They're not gonna be
anyway.
able to get it, yeah,
Make that
300
fit.
feet away from the house.
If that's there, can any 2 acre lots, if you're going 300 feet from each direction?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, how wide is 2 acres? I
You've
don't-
got
I
a
don't
2
know.
foot square chunk in the center of your lot. where
It
you
can be
have-
175 feet
Now-
wide, but then you have to, it's gonna be deep in order to get to the 88,000 square feet.
It'll be about 500 feet. 175 by 500 is about 2 acres.
But you still need to be 300 feet, so you can't. If you have 175.
If you have
You need
175,
300. Well, you actually probably need 600, 300 from each side, right? Not thinking about that,
Yeah,
right?
because at that rate, if space makes it so that you can't do it anyway, why do we even need it in this section?
So you might as well just take it out.
Yeah, I mean, reading it, if we're saying 300 feet from the lot line, and the lot is legally 175 feet wide, there's no. So why?
You know, I mean, we've got it in here, but practicality, I don't see how it could be, how it could happen.
I mean, hypothetically, we can have a 15 acre FR1.
I mean, if you're next door to, yeah,
Well, that's true.
There's no cap on it, you know, so.
That's true.
Generally, they are smaller than 5 acres, but there's no.
But not
stipulation they have
always.
to be.
But then if somebody wants to have a kennel, then they have to change to AR1.
It'd be
Be zoned.
And they
Maybe
need that
don't.
much. It's-
Oh.
they're in 5 acres.
Shoot.
if they have 15 acres zoned FR1,
I don't think you.
I have no idea why anyone would ever want to do that.
Because it was that way when they bought the property and, you know, they decided they didn't want to subdivide like the other people did.
Because, you know, it makes a big difference in terms of the value of the property.
I mean, I don't think you have any of that, honestly.
Well, tell me, Scott, if you have any knowledge about that kind of language existing in other township zoning ordinances for 2 acre lots.
Well, only Harlem, Berkshire and Trenton have anything larger than 2. Trenton has 5 and 3, you all have 5 and, well, 1.95. And Berkshire has 5 and 2, so. So this language would be, I mean, it seems very, I can't say that it's in everybody's, but it's very familiar. And so I would say it's in everybody's, all the other townships that can go to 2 acres without really even having to rezone, so.
Well,
But that was the
probably-
only place they could put it, whereas you can put it in your AR1 and maybe you don't need it here.
Take it out.
So
And you can.
I guess I'm gonna suggest we delete it in FR1, yeah.
I mean, it can be, if you want to if you're gonna be in a commercial area. And I mean, there's a dog kennel on 23 near me. And it's a pretty small lot, but you know, it's on 23, so. There aren't any neighbors to be bothered by it. So you can always rezone. I mean, I just always think about taking it out and leaving people not a lot of options, but. I think if you wanted to run. You know, a pet palace, you would obviously rezone. You wouldn't be using a conditional use anyway, I think.
Right.
So I don't, again, as not the prosecutor's representative, but I don't have a problem taking it out here because you allow for it in your 5 acre zone. Everybody seems to be.
Everyone's in agreement, let's take it out.
Okay. That's all of E, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. So we've gone from, well, A on the first page here, which is page. No, it's not on 804, it's on 803. Expanded home occupation, then B. Is the item starting with kindergarten, C is convalescent homes. D is residential facilities.
No, we took out the convalescent
Gone
homes.
too.
I'm sorry, what?
We took out convalescent homes.
Yeah, because residential facilities basically covers that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Category.
I guess we did take that one out too. Okay, so it's actually C, is
Mhm.
residential. Okay, so C is residential facility. And then D is permanent structures. Unless we, no, we're not going to take that one out. E is churches. And we got, the language on this one is not. Well, going back to what Brittany had said earlier, though, it says a church or a place of worship, provided they occupy a lot on not less than 5 acres plus 1.
For each 100.
For each 100
No.
permanent seats over 300
Mhm.
in the main assembly. But I mean, if that's if we're talking about 2 acre lots, and then we're all turn right around and saying it's 5 acres plus 1.
Yeah. But churches are allowed in FR1s.
They are allowed.
They just have to be on the larger lot sizes of FR1s.
I don't know if the language that's here, so basically. Almost, well, I shouldn't say it that way. There would be a lot of instances where they'd have to go to the BZA to get a variance. Because of the 5 acres. But then there's also some limitations on what zoning can do with churches. In townships.
Very, yeah, very limited.
So I don't know, we cannot. Put it in such a way that they're not allowed at all, but I don't know about the wording on this thing.
I mean, in the thought process with the 5 acres that they need space for parking
Parking.
and such.
Yeah.
So what?
We've never had an issue with it being like
No.
this, so I would just leave it alone.
That's not been an issue in the past.
Just like the thought with the kennels.
It's been like that for 30 plus years.
Yeah, I would say it's just fine.
Okay. So that's E. Next one's F is model homes.
Which would be odd, but you have had an FR1 subdivision or two. And they may want to put a model home in there. But, I mean, they always turn a model home into, you know, when they sell all the other lots.
Right.
It's just a way to. They wouldn't fall under the definition of a residential structure for that period of time.
Mhm,
when it was-
mhm.
All right, going forward, that's FG is bed and breakfast. H, cell phone towers. I.
You have that
public or
separate-
private school.
Cell phone section in your,
I beg your pardon?
you have a separate cell phone section in your court. Code.
Cellular, yeah,
Okay,
cellular towers.
couldn't remember without looking.
Right, there's no changes on this page that I can see. Does anyone have anything? I'm just going to change the lettering here. So it ends, the last item is a K. K is non-commercial playgrounds, playfields, picnic areas, etc.
Mhm.
Okay, then 805 is prohibited uses. Storage of junk motor vehicles, that continues to be a problem in the township. F and G. Here's the item on marijuana. The issue has come up relating to recreational marijuana now. This item specifically prohibits dispensaries of medical marijuana licensed under Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 3796. We also have that in AR. In fact, we have that language in all of the zoning districts. Do we need to have similar language with recreational? What's the word that you're getting or hearing, or is there anything being discussed relating to that regarding recreational marijuana?
I keep hearing there are people working on some standard language for for townships to use, but I don't know what the current status of that is.
Okay. Well, for now, I mean, there's nothing, we don't need to change it. I'm just asking the question because of the change in the law that we now have.
Right.
Permitting that.
I don't, if I hear anything, I'll let you know, but I haven't. Your
Okay.
trustees may know before I do.
I mean, they talked about it at the OTA. And including, like you said, the recreational in there. But there's some time now because they're not issuing licenses. Until they get this language figured out of how to zone it. So they said, I can look it up real quick.
The Township Association is working on it,
Yeah.
is what you're
I
suggesting.
thought people who were able to grow their own weren't going to have to be licensed.
You're allowed up to 6 plants per
Yeah.
person, max of 12 per household.
Yeah.
That's not a cultivator, that's personal use.
Okay.
And that's legal now.
Yeah,
And I thought I had heard that recreational sales would have to go through existing dispensaries. Medical dispensaries. So if you don't have a medical dispensary in the township, you can't have recreational sales either
This is for now.
for now.
they would have to go, well, since they're prohibited, we don't have any. So on that basis, there couldn't be any recreational dispensaries in the township.
Mm.
Like I say, that could change in our.
Well, I think I'd be in favor of just leaving it until we find out, get further instruction.
Yeah, I think so too.
Here on the website. You can go to the OTA website, you have resolutions to prohibit adult use cannabis, medical marijuana operators, cultivators, processors, and retail dispensaries. Or a resolution to adopt it, if you guys want to adopt it.
That was only the medical, right? I think you read medical.
Combines adult use and medical.
That's why we adopted this 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whatever it was. We put it in place because the township trustees did not want any dispensaries or cultivators, processors in the township.
And the only, I mean, if that was still the case, you could just take the word medical out and it would still cover just marijuana in general.
Mhm.
For this.
Well, then we'd have to
Mhm.
change
Issue.
the reference to the revised code too.
Yeah.
Because that section would be different. And maybe we just delete it altogether. Well, I think we'll take Joni's suggestion, though. We'll wait and see what additional information we get before we finalize this. For now, we know that language is good. So for developmental standards now, development standards rather, lot area.
Before we leave 805, F. So we're saying that if you live in Keller Pines, for example, you're not allowed to keep chickens,
Keller Pines is a planned residential development,
so it's not even on this section.
right?
It's not even this,
Well,
we don't know.
that, actually, I know about that, because that's 711-131 is the road frontage lot splits. So there's something about when you get 15 of those together, you can control agriculture in an adjacent area. But strangely enough, nobody's ever said, hey, where are all of our lots that have been created using 711-131 lot splits? Just, and the idea of them being 15 altogether, it's just a weird way that the revised code is written, but I mean, a platted subdivision is gonna have lots that are smaller than 5 acres, so you don't have to worry about ag, and like Joni said, most of them are gonna have HOA restrictions against stuff anyway. So. I mean, Kingston Township was like, well, we want to be pro-agriculture, so let's, if that's something we can do, but we don't have to, then let's just take that out, and so they did. But that's what that refers to is once you start getting this trend of a lot of lot splits, and you have some areas
Mhm.
where you've had a lot of that. I mean, usually anything under 5 acres that gets split off is a lot split, but is a 711-131.
So how many have to be? 12?
I think it's like 15, either on one side or the other or adjacent to each other. That's what makes it tough to map, because they're scattered.
We have a fair amount of 4-H'ers around too.
Yeah, there still are, and there's families that are moving here in order to provide for that opportunity.
Yeah.
Going back down to development standards, lot area. We're gonna leave that as less than 2 net acres, right? We're not taking the word net out,
Mhm.
excluding all recorded easements or rights of way, or do we, in this case, do we really want to say or?
I think it's an and.
That should be an and. Because if it's or, it's one or the other. Well,
Yeah, I mean, that was your old language, but now it's easier to see when the other
Yeah.
stuff's changed around it.
Okay. We're not changing any of the requirements here, because if we change anything there, then we potentially will create, in terms of lot frontage, then we will potentially create
Yeah.
more non-conforming lots.
Going back to the original wording in lot area. It seems that originally it said all road rights of way. Probably right of ways. So it specifically said road rights of way. And we've taken the word road out. I think maybe we should put that, it should be all recorded easements and road rights of way.
Oh, and stick the word road in. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
The other rights of way would be utility rights of way, but those are generally recorded easements. So.
Yeah, I agree. And you don't have railroads, so you don't have to worry about other rights. I mean,
Mhm.
that's the only thing I see for rights of way is roads and railroads.
Okay.
So, sure. So we just narrowed up the front setback. Some of this was your zoning inspector had pointed out that I don't know if it was that one or the setback. Just the idea that on a flag lot, you have pretty excessive setbacks when you don't need that front setback because you're already way back off the road. So 25 for front. Or fronted, yeah. That just tells you where you measure the frontage of the lot. And then the setback
Okay.
is still 50 feet.
No additional questions or suggestions on page 808 going forward. 809.
Under building dimensions, we say 1 story with the 1 in parentheses, but then 2 story, we don't have the 2 in parentheses. We're gonna get really nitpicky about it.
Was that building height?
Building
Dimensions.
Dimensions, that first D.
Dimensions.
One building is to exceed 35 feet.
Mhm. We all did agree that we were not going to have to put the square footage stuff in text.
Yes, and I don't even care about the 1.5 necessarily, the 1.5 story.
No,
Honestly, we could take the 1 story out as well, since there's so many there, but
Just have the numeral 1.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay,
And then that way it will be consistent. Okay. Got it.
I do note now. That earth berm and underground, you don't have that under your AR1s. It seems like they both, you have in both places. Should I repeat that previously? Are we really worried about? People doing an underground house just to get away from the square footage. I mean,
Oh, no, it's just scrambled.
it could be 1 story or earth berm and. Oh, I see. Yeah, it's just in a different spot.
You want to put them in the same order, then you.
Okay, yeah, I'll just move that up.
Is anyone still building those underground houses? At one time, Westerville had the home builders show.
Mhm.
They had one of and that house is still there,
Mhm.
an underground house there. But I don't think they ever built any except the one that was the model.
Neighbor's house is partially underground, their lower, like their back half has a hill up to it, and they have nothing but trouble with water seeping in, and it's just,
Yeah.
it's a mess, I would not. It seems like the whole city of New Orleans, why would you put something underwater?
Oh, not New Orleans, right?
Like humans are meant to be in water, stop putting things close to the
I think just hobbits are still building them underground.
I'm sorry.
The guys at Duck Hunt, our farm field. They came and asked to bury a shipping container. In the ground,
Huh.
to have like an underground. Hunting cabin type deal that has like pop-up holes so they could hunt ducks.
Use it as a blind too.
Yeah, like a blind, but they have it heated so they don't be out in the cold. And I was like, we'll think about it. But no.
Sounds like a crime scene waiting to
Yeah.
happen.
Okay, front setback, okay, so flag lots, we changed this wording to get that clarified the last time. Everybody,
Mm.
like what we've got now? We changed the rear yard setback, reducing it from 80 to 50. Okay. Last page, 810. Lighting standards.
I don't have my other stuff in front of me, obviously. What lighting standards and landscape standards do we have?
They're in 2114 and 2107.
Yeah,
If we have them.
It's pretty much a paragraph or two.
There's not much there, but the sections do exist.
yeah.
Actually, later, under lighting, for your PC, I'm recommending taking the lighting that's in your I don't want to jump ahead since we're so
the
close to being on the
PCB.
last page.
Maybe.
But copying that somewhere in a general spot and just letting everything refer back to that, because everything's reasonable and it's not.
Yeah, well, since we've got it there, there would be the
Yeah,
simple way to resolve that, yes. All right, so the amendments to the definitions, we've already addressed that, and you put that in the I didn't print that off, or did I? Residential, is that?
that wasn't part of the pages that I
That wasn't part of what you
gave
did
you
with
for
the,
Article 4.
okay. That would be a change though, that, you would be recommending go into the definitions, right?
Yes.
And you're just taking that definition specifically out of the ORC, putting it in our, you would recommend that we would add that to our definitions.
Right.
Section.
Yeah, there's a complicated table I have where the state said there are certain kinds of uses that you have to allow in straight districts that are residential, and then some that you can allow in commercial districts as long as they have a residential component, and then assisted living, that sort of thing goes in more commercial areas. So that's just when I thought we had it figured out, then they went and changed all the numbers and all the references. That was several years ago, so have a guidance table that I can show you sometime of where that goes, but that gets all that adult group home and all that language simplified because they're all under residential facilities instead.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, that makes sense to do it that way. So then Scott, you'll make these changes that we've talked about tonight, and then all we would need to do would be to verify the changes that we have reviewed, that they have been made, and then that becomes basically our final draft on these two articles. Well, maybe not on the definitions, but on the articles 7 and 8. Okay,
Except for the whole BZA permit thing. Right, we still needed to figure out,
well, we're leaving the language the way that it
it's
is,
just making the BZA make a permit.
Yeah, so I'm gonna talk with Mike about that and see if he's actually done it yet.
Yeah,
And if not, that it's something that they should do.
yeah.
I think they really should have that.
No, I agree. I think it makes more sense to have a standard form to give to property owners and to file.
Yeah, instead of saying,
Look at the minutes.
look at the minutes.
Was R2 accidentally on the back of that?
Yes,
Okay.
it was
Just, you
accidental.
didn't ignore that.
It shouldn't have been there. I mean,
Because
yeah.
I wanted to make sure the page numbers are right, so I generated the entire document as a PDF and then I deleted
I,
PDF pages and I missed that section.
I forwarded it over to everybody and to Valerie later.
Okay,
I mean, today I left that one off.
Okay.
Because I knew we'd already dealt with it.
okay, yeah. I was like, how have I not flipped enough pages?
Yeah, it was there, when I came across it and thought, oh, I figured, well, that's just accidental, it shouldn't
Yeah.
be there. Article 15, this was a new one, guys, we haven't seen this before, but Scott went ahead and created this so that we could have an opportunity to begin to look at it tonight. Anticipating that we would get this far. You were right. You got this far.
I had hope. I mean, just a brief overview, since we added a planned district process, then that doesn't need to be in each of these districts, so that took out a bunch in the middle, which I could have made it easier by sticking all that at the end so that it wasn't in the middle. But then as I was going through the commercial language and I was looking at some of your overlays, there were just some things missing, like setbacks referenced back to your Article 21, but then you go to Article 21 and it says PC as development plan. So it doesn't even give you any setback guidance for planned commercial. And then I borrowed the service areas, production areas, landscaping, and lighting from the overlays. So
Yeah, everything pertaining to the procedures, of course, is out because we have a separate set of procedures.
and you didn't have I mean, if you want to skip to page 1506, which is where it actually
Yeah,
starts.
I'm up to page 1506. Development standards.
There really wasn't a development size. Usually a planned district always has a
Right.
minimum area, but you don't want to be at 25 acres like your overlays are, right? You want
Well, we
flexibility.
approved a PCD on as a lot as small as about 2/10 of an acre.
Sure.
We did that for the initially here in the village of
Yeah,
Homeland.
that was just to get them
Yeah,
up to,
so the question is, do we want to have a minimum development size? You pick up minimum tract size, you picked up 10 acres. I think that's what we use for the PRD, right? It's 10,
so
yeah. Any comment on that from the commission? We need to put a minimum tract size in here. Some of the ones that we've approved. I'm trying to think if any of the ones that we've approved as a PCD have been 10 acres. They've all been less than 10, haven't they? 5 acres or less, I think.
Yeah,
it's usually a single site.
yeah.
I mean, until you get,
I think we have a lot of 5-acre PCDs
Yeah,
or somewhere around there.
there's several
Of
of
course, we
them.
also had that art shop that's now Ed's house.
Yeah,
remember.
it's now residential.
Yeah. But it was a PCD and that,
Well, it was a
you
PCD.
know, an acre, less
That
than
was,
an acre.
well, it was, I think that was about 2/10 of an acre.
Yeah.
That was the one I was thinking of when I said that.
Yeah, that's what
But then the other one that we did early on was the one that's down there on Fancher. Can't remember now the name of the
There's a couple
company,
of
but
them,
it
sure.
was more than 5 acres. I don't remember exactly what the acreage was, but it was more.
the
than five.
landscaping, the landscaper.
No, where the concrete guy is now.
Where Beckner is?
That's it, Jay Beckner.
Yeah. Was McCann, right?
McCann, that's the name I couldn't remember, thank you. And when it was first approved, it was McCann, and I don't remember the exact acreage, but I'm sure it was more than 5.
Mhm.
It wasn't 10 though. It was less than 10. So.
Yeah, I don't know that we need a minimum size for a PCD.
Well, without it, I mean, you continue to have people that want to do some kind of commercial activity. On any size lot, small lots.
But they can only do it in certain areas now, according to our,
According to our zoning, that would be true.
so. You know, we have,
Or according to our master plan.
yeah, we have a lot of smallish lots that are probably not suitable for much except maybe a small commercial, like a photography shop or a real estate office or a lawyer's office or whatever.
Well, that's why I'm asking, what's as Scott's identifying, he put it in, and it certainly is the discussion on that. In the past, we utilized it because the trustees wanted to be, back when we developed the first master plan, the township, the trustees wanted to have the opportunity to have commercial occur anywhere in the township.
Mhm.
And they initially were going to just make it straight commercial anywhere in the township. But we did convince them that it was better to, at the very least, to make it PCD, planned commercial. If you're going to have it anywhere in the township, then at least make it a planned
Mhm.
commercial district so that there would be controls that could be placed on the property that otherwise wouldn't be there.
Yeah, I think, so you still have a C2, you have a neighborhood commercial.
Right.
And a lot of other codes do. I always thought, theoretically, you had those straight districts for the single site uses. And you had planned districts for multiple use sites because the whole justification for a planned district is that it's under the PUD section, which is supposed to be a mix of uses. But that doesn't seem to be a problem with anybody. I mean, everybody seems to zone to planned district, even when it's just a single site. So it seemed like the whole justification for continuing to have a straight district hasn't really materialized because everybody just goes along with the planned districts.
Well, and we had asked that a while ago, if we could go to only planned districts, because realistically, we've tried to incentivize residents to choose a planned district because that gives us more say on things.
We do have a few areas which were granted that kind of street district zoning in the township, more, I guess it was more a grandfather
Yeah.
kind of circumstance. It was put in place at the beginning.
Yeah.
When the zoning was initially adopted. I can't think of any. Now, maybe there has been one or two, but I'm not aware of any where we've approved through the zoning commission a straight commercial district.
Yeah,
One or two.
I don't remember reviewing any throughout the county.
The
Even
whole
though
county.
even though everybody seems to retain that as an option. And the whole point being for just that single use person that said, well, I don't want to do a planned district, but they seem to all do it. And no one's challenged the fact that it's not really multiple uses. Which is what the
So-
PUD is for.
Yeah, our PUD though requires like
Well,
40 acres or something.
PUD when it comes to the revised code. Because this is just side history that I understand, but I mean, I wasn't involved with, but Delaware County, I think Liberty Township was challenged because they were using planned districts to do just residential subdivisions.
Hmm.
And they won the case by saying, well, we have open space too, and so that's why we can do a planned district, which is supposed to be a mix of uses. Once they won that, everybody here and everybody everywhere else just does planned residential districts. And then that carries over into commercial as well.
Hmm.
Useless information. I don't know a lot, but something.
Well, the way that we've been using the PCD in the township,
Is for single.
Tony's
sites.
comment about having no minimum track size.
Yeah.
Fits, because that's the way we have used it.
Well, and I just put that in there as something to think about, but I don't think there's a danger in not having it, but you might want to say 2 acre, you might want to put something on there. They're gonna have to have a system. Until you get sewer, they're gonna need some kind of a system to take care of their on-site treatment, right?
Right.
Unless they argue that they're a storage facility and they don't need that, which seems to be the current trend. But they're probably gonna do that anyway, because before you rezone it, you're gonna have to say where all these other, where's the treatment system on your site? So
Mhm.
just put it back on the applicant to say, well, you need to rezone all the area that you're gonna be using for that. So maybe you don't need a minimum size.
I would, whether we say 10 acres or not, where it comes to this minimum tract size may be reduced. Who does that? Is that a zoning commission function or a BZA function? I mean, this comes to the zoning commission, right? So do we have any procedure for deciding what's legitimate? If it's less than 10 acres, what we'll accept and what we won't accept? Or we just,
Well, the only condition would be what's specified here. Adjacent to existing land zoned or developed for uses other than single family development. That's when it could be reduced from 10 acres, the way it's worded right now. That would be the only condition.
that means if 2 3 years later, it is developed for a single family residential.
Right, well, right now in our township, we don't have any of that. Well, I'll take that back. We do have it a little bit. Because there's some twin single type of development up here on Center Village Road. I went in there before zoning. And they're twin singles. So that's not
I
the
mean-
same as single family.
That phrase would only apply down the road after you had a development that came in. And they had 10 acres. And you said the next guy didn't have to have 10 acres, they could only have 2. And now you're building a
Yeah,
commercial area. But now when I say that, I mean 10 is a lot.
putting a minimum tract size in for us in Harlow Township is very different from what we have used in the past. Our usage of it has not been with tracts of land that were that big. They were always smaller than 10
Mhm.
acres.
Maybe it's safer just to not have a
Yeah.
size.
The one thing that's changed is under the new master plan. We've identified that if it's going to be commercial, it needs to be in those areas that are designated for that. Whereas before, the other master plan allowed it to be anywhere in the township. Now we're limited. It's-
I don't think we said anywhere. In your old master plan.
I mean, yeah.
We may not have said anywhere, but it was, as long as they came in and got it approved, it was wherever,
No, actually, it does say anywhere someplace.
anywhere,
It may be in the letter from the trustees
yeah.
that went with the 1988 one. Or I'm sorry, not 88, 98. 2000.
I'm just not sure we need a minimum development size at all in this article.
Is there anyone who, well,
Just so you're saying that we would, your intent is to say there's got to be a 10-acre development to start with, and then you can put in smaller developments around that.
Yeah.
To kind of expand that 10-acre.
Yeah. That's what that
Um,
means.
So it's not really, you're not saying you can drop a 2-acre PCD anywhere in the township. There's gotta be a nucleus around which they're building this 10-acre nucleus.
Zoned or developed in something that's not a single family development, so. But if it goes away, then that phrase goes away too. So if there's no minimum size, someday you might want to add one, but I can see why you'd want.
Well, with our overlay districts, when somebody uses them potentially, there'd be more areas where that could be applicable. Right now, yeah, the overlay district covers some areas, but and the zoning is the potential there, but no one's using it yet.
And on larger than 10-acre parcels to start with, so. You know.
Well, the other possibility, I guess the other way to think about potentially is down here on Fancher Road, because we've got several of them. That would be potentially possible then that it could be reduced for 10 acres because it would be adjacent to an already existing PCD.
I guess I'd be willing to leave the 10-acre. If it's the way it is now, maybe adjusting the language a little bit, so it's clear that that's, you know, a standalone PCD development has got to be 10 acres. If it's within an area where there are other PCD developments that it's adjacent to one of those, it could be smaller. That's the point I think you're trying to make.
Mhm.
I just think 10 acres is too big for our area. I'm not real fond of keeping any kind of minimum size.
Well, and for a PCD, I mean, what we're wanting to really
When you're gonna do
primarily,
commercial.
we want to encourage
Yeah,
more
there's
is the
not gonna be
use
a
of
small
the
commercial, it's gotta be
overlay
a big
districts. That we have in place, not really moving to this.
Some people.
It's gonna be there,
Yeah.
it's gonna be there on the books, but we really don't want to encourage it. We want to encourage using the overlay districts.
We've tried to encourage things before that haven't worked out terribly well for us, have they?
They don't, they rarely do.
So, yeah,
Oh, no, I'll take that back. Yeah, rarely, but we did get one. We have the PRCD that we're getting down here
Yeah.
on Duncan Run.
so there's one, yay.
A major
there's been-
success.
Been a number of failures leading to that.
Oh,
success.
yes.
Well, hopefully after we get one in, everyone will see how good it is and we'll get more.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Because now we've got an example.
Yes.
I could see something like this, if it's less than, let's say it's 5 acres and somebody tries to convert a standard AR1 lot to a PCD. Let's say on Woodtown Road, surrounded by residences. And he puts in what we thought was a fairly unobtrusive and innocuous use, turns out to be a nightmare for the surrounding residents.
Well, then he's in violation of his zoning. Cause he would have to follow
Whatever was
whatever's in
approved.
the plan.
I mean, but what if what we approved, we didn't realize was gonna be a nuisance?
If we screwed up on the approval, then
I mean, never
You
know.
think of everything.
Yeah, you can't always think everything.
I know we're gonna face something like that.
Well, granted that we haven't had that many PCDs, and we haven't had that many. Trying to think how many we might have had that are actually less than 5 acres. Help me, you think of any besides the one over here? What was the other? Was there another one besides that one? The other ones that I'm thinking of are all 5 acres or more.
Yeah, I don't know.
So maybe we could go with 5 acres instead of 10.
Yeah.
But that's, I guess that my example is you take a standard residential lot. Rezone it as a PCD, and that turns out to be a big mistake because of where it's located in the house surrounding.
Okay, but according to our master plan. We can't do these PCDs all over the place like we were doing. they're limited to certain areas. So they're not gonna just be popping up in residential areas,
Would you object? to
presumably.
Putting something about the comprehensive plan that limits the location?
The comprehensive plan isn't binding, right? So yes, they are
Unless we
guidelines.
put it in here.
Yes, we could say, we don't feel like this fits the master plan, but if somebody really wanted to fight it. And has more money to get a lawyer than we do.
Yeah, well, you do it on the basis of it's an incompatible use for the surrounding area.
Yeah,
And that's why the master plan was created, is to try to keep that kind of spot zoning from happening. But
If you were gonna mention it here, then you would have to mention it everywhere, which would be fine, except then you have to do it everywhere.
and it could be one sentence added to the purpose section of every article. Yeah,
And I think somebody who's had some experience in real estate development would say. An acre is a huge piece of ground. You put it in. Whatever. A small retail or a small service, more likely a service company. Landscaping.
yeah, well,
Service.
the PCD though, potentially, the apartments, when the same are specifically designed as part of the architecture of the structure in a village setting. So you could have 10 acres and you could build apartments. That's identified as a permitted use.
yeah, I'd rather have, a couple of acres of apartments rather than 10 acres of apartments.
So, as part of a PCD, you could design the 10 acres and could have apartments, you could have other commercial ventures involved, a variety of things. Any of these permitted uses could be in the PCD. But up to this point in time, we've always had just one use that we've approved a PCD for. So,
You mean one use at a time or it always being landscaping?
the landscaping has been the biggest one, yeah, because there's been multiple ones of those. And then we had one landscaping PCD request that we recommended as a zoning commission, and then the trustees voted no on it. It was a 2-1. No,
You just mean as part of the plan district, you allow one use.
We
So that they-
allow multiples according to what we have, but the things that have come to us so far have only been.
Okay, yeah,
one.
I'm just trying to
That's what-
clarify what.
so we do allow it in the sense of if that's what they put into the plan.
Yeah.
Then
Right.
yes, it can be approved for just the one use.
And I think that's probably because what's been coming to us are business owners who are building a headquarters location or a branch location for their business. Not a real estate developer who's looking then to resell it to
Right, yeah.
a real estate developer and create a mix.
Yeah, well, the real estate developer is more likely to do one of our drop down, our pull down things than a straight planned.
Yeah,
In that case.
Yeah.
And 10 acres might be too much for a single business owner. Because I don't need all the space, but.
Especially with the price of acreage these days. Somebody with a really small business isn't gonna be able to buy 10 acres and build their business too.
I would sleep on it, but if you wanted to reduce that to 5. I could see going along with that and, that we,
well, I'm inclined to say 5 also, seems to me that it's in general consistent with all the PCDs that we have approved. With the exception of the one that I can think of. Now, if there's another one that that's just not coming to mind,
Which one is smaller?
the art studio.
Oh, Meredith.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's not there anymore anyway.
know.
so-
I'm
but that-
afraid, but that was the only one I can think of.
Okay, but you can't think of any, I can't either think of any existing ones that are
Correct.
less than 5 that we'd be making.
That we'd make well,
Okay, it's not technically non-conforming since it's a planned district and they have
Correct.
theirs. Yeah.
How hard would it be to report on PCDs in the township and their acreage? Is that
Not hard at all.
easier than
Mhm.
having somebody here search through all the.
Yeah.
The maps? It just gives an idea, maybe we're not thinking of all of them or. But they're, I mean, if it's mostly 5 acres or around that now.
yeah.
And it mostly, businessmen who started or families that are starting a business.
Well, and
The thing is though, that I think there are the types of businesses like Kathleen Johnson. I don't think she has 5 acres, does she?
no, but is
Lawyer.
he a PCD? I don't know.
I think she
can't remember.
is.
I think it got approved, but I don't know if it was approved or was approved as a variance.
I don't,
That would be one that would, if it's approved as a PCD, it would be less than 5 acres.
Yeah.
There's-
The thing is, if we're gonna say like 5 acres or more, the only kind of businesses we're gonna get are things like landscapers and stuff. We're not gonna get the little lawyers and, photographers and real estate offices.
It was a true mixed use because she had a physical therapy office in the back.
And we wanted to utilize the planned district as the option as opposed to the straight districts, because
Yeah.
you put in a straight district and then any of the permitted uses could change at any time.
Mhm.
But if it's a planned district and then it's approved, that can't change
Mhm.
without coming back and going through the process again. That's why I know specifically in terms of when it was being advocated to put that in place, that was the rationale for doing it
Mhm.
and utilizing it.
Yeah, I guess I'm still not convinced we need a minimum size for a PCD. But, whatever.
Well, if remember,
I certainly think 10 acres is more than,
I don't think that should be 10 either. I'm inclined to go to 5. And then the other language, though, would allow the potential for it to be reduced to a smaller size if it would seem to be appropriate based upon the adjacent lands and how they're zoned and how they're being utilized.
Scott, what led you to make it 10?
Well, no, it's not a very good reason, but that's just what a lot of other planned districts start with, even some residential ones do. But
You're
I
saying
mean,
our plan districts or just in general?
no, in general, in the county. Just planned districts usually have a minimum, again, because for the smaller uses, you would use a straight district, but I can see wanting to limit it to PC. You do still open the door for the other PC uses, but then they have to come back in and ask.
Yeah.
Have that conversation a lot, just in general.
What are we gonna do with the straight districts, the straight commercial districts? We got, we gotta be thinking about, not that we're gonna make a decision tonight, I don't mean that, but we do have to think about that
Mhm.
in terms of if they remain, then that straight commercial district could be utilized any place that we've identified where there could potentially be commercial uses that are in the master plan. They can use a straight district.
Well, they could ask you,
Beg your pardon?
they could ask.
Oh, yeah, that's what I mean.
Mhm.
Yes, exactly what I mean. Yeah. They
It felt
can
like you were saying they could do them anywhere without being.
not
able to-
anywhere, no. But they would be able to make the request,
Mhm.
and since we've got areas that are identified now for commercial use, it makes more sense to consider doing it as a straight district than it used to when there was you know, we didn't have any areas identified. You could do commercial anywhere in the township. Well, that really results in spot zoning. You got one little tract of land here that is set up, well, put a gas station up here on the corner of 605 and Woodtown. It's the only place it could be. Or it could be anywhere in the township, but they could do it up there if we said, yeah, it's okay to do commercial anywhere in the township. We didn't say that. We said it had to be a planned district. Under the old master plan. Under the new one, we've identified areas for commercial use.
Yeah.
So I'm just bringing up the straight districts because that's what we're working on. And then this one, being a planned commercial. And we agreed that we wanted to keep it. Do we want to keep it in the same manner that we've had it, where there is no size, or is there going, should we have a minimum size for future development?
Why don't I just go ahead and put 5 and we'll talk about it more next time, because rather than dwell on it now, I mean. Just think about it and then we'll come back and maybe. everybody
Yeah,
feels the
well,
same.
we don't want to keep coming back to
Care.
that.
I don't care, but I just want to move forward a little bit. I know it's getting, we might not get too much more, but.
All right, so I agree. Let's, for now, we'll say 5. And then we'll take it from there.
And it doesn't bother me.
See if there's a reason to change it to either higher or lower.
Yeah.
But we'll agree on 5 for now and then provide a rationale to either increase it or decrease it.
Good.
Yep.
All right, we've got about 8 or 9 minutes left, and then we will plan on ending at 9:30. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
You jam the word residential in after single family. There's, so it's weird. Single family commercial.
What page?
A. Under minimum
1506.
development size. 1506.
15, what page are you on now?
1506.
It's the same
Or
paragraph.
the same
Yeah, the
sentence.
same paragraph, the end of that same paragraph, it says uses other than single family development. I just wanted to put in single family residential.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, you're talking about uses other than single family.
Yeah, I think I had it in and then I took it out and I had it in without single family and then I switched it around. So
Okay.
if it reads better with both, then that's fine.
We're looking at next.
Is there anything else on this page?
Did you added all the setbacks, right?
Right. So your old,
These are all new.
Yeah,
the
this
current
is
language just sends you to 21 and 21 says your setbacks are all per plan, which
Mhm.
doesn't even give any guidance. So I tried to pick up some general ideas from your mixed use overlay and try to just simplify the language so there wasn't a whole lot of extra verbiage. I don't know if 100 is a lot, but for a front setback, but if it's an existing road, that's what that would be, and then the next road would be. If it's an internal, again, not for the single use, which you might want to keep that in mind when you think about 100 feet back from the road. But then for a commercial site that might have 3 or 4 uses on it, then you would have, if you had an entry road, you could have tighter setbacks from that road or shared driveway. But the 100 feet is from existing roads.
someone wants to come in and do a planned commercial development and have a flower shop, pet store, and a restaurant. Making it up. 3 different uses. But what they're all retail,
Or like,
or maybe one would be a dentist office.
when there's outlots out front and then a larger use in the back. You would have internal,
So that then becomes more of a planned commercial kind of concept, you know. Whereas what we've got right now is just like providing an opportunity for people to have a commercial activity occur someplace in the township.
Mm.
I think we need to kind of move away from that concept. Because things are going to be changing very much so as we experience this development. Okay, anything else on this page that anyone was,
The buffer,
the buffer, yeah.
you recommend a buffer of 100 feet was required, and I would recommend putting that more as a minimum buffer of 100 feet. I don't want it to look like, you know, it has to be 100 feet, and it can't be any more than that, but it's gotta be 100 feet, you know.
I'm fine with adding the word minimum.
I'd say you just add the word minimum, really, a minimum
Mhm.
buffer of 100 feet.
Sure. I think every developer is gonna read every regulation as a minimum. But I'm happy to put it in there. I don't think anybody will do more than what you require.
Okay,
I could be wrong.
and the buffer may require mounding based on existing and proposed topography.
Yeah, I mean, you know this, your mixed use has a lot of specificity about the mounding and how much landscape and all that. I just wanted to leave, since there's nothing in there now. I just left it as part of the discussion process in the plan
That's
district.
probably good to begin to, you know, suggest that though,
Right.
that is something to consider. Otherwise, they come into, when they talk to us about a PCD, there's no guidelines. It's kind of like, bring in your proposal, and then we'll give you a feedback. That's the way it's operated.
But we've always required a buffer.
Yeah, but we haven't supposed to say anything about it until they
Yeah.
bring it in, right?
Also, I'll pull up some of your existing commercial development and just tell you what the setbacks are. Cause maybe 100 is a lot, even though it sounds good. Maybe if you see a lot of single sites, you're gonna find, wow, we're gonna push it back 100 feet from the road and we're gonna do 100-foot perimeter. That may be too much.
Yeah, there are some places, well, like in Center Village, you wouldn't use a planned commercial. You would
Right.
use, you know,
Yeah, you should
the
use
C1 or
That would be
C2.
2 minute walk,
the pull down.
Yeah.
2 minutes.
Okay. My one says 3, but that's all right. Okay, well, we finished that page. Then,
Okay, cool.
so we'll start up on page 1507 next time. But I would ask then that all of us, we can begin to take a look at this. The question, the other thing that we had mentioned that we might want to discuss is use for our April meetings. How we want to do that for the workshop meeting in April. Because one of the things that we clearly need to do is to come back and deal with the revision that we need to make in the application form that we would use for the PR, the planned districts. And you've been working on that. You have sent us a draft. Do we want to schedule a special meeting to address that? Or do we want to utilize the workshop meeting in April and have Scott not come back with changes until, or use part of that meeting and have Scott come back in April? But schedule an hour for
Our
working on
workshop
that and
meeting,
an hour to work on the plan.
our workshop meeting is Eclipse Day.
Yeah.
I might be running a little late.
Ah,
I don't know. Okay.
So, what's the preference here? How you want to do this?
I say split the time instead of an additional meeting.
Is that fair to Scott? They haven't come to this remote location just for an hour.
No, I don't think so. I think we want full Scott time.
Solar traffic, post solar eclipse traffic.
Well, we don't accomplish a lot in an hour.
I do think traffic is going to be a lot worse on Eclipse Day. If you gotta come in from
So you
20.
want to change the date?
Um,
They keep warning us about traffic. And remember, I will be out of town, so I won't be here for the meeting.
Should we just
On the
resume
8th, I
with
mean.
Scott in May?
That would be a good optional date if we wanted to change it. There's 5 Mondays in April. We can't do it on the 15th because the 15th is
BZA.
BZA. We could do it on the 22nd.
Are we changing the date because of the eclipse? I thought we were
Mm,
saying
are
that
we
we
changing
wanted
it?
to make sure we had full time with Scott,
what is
And
the
to
other thing
not-
that you're gonna do?
review the form
Review
the same
form
day of Scott.
for Overlay districts.
Yeah.
Well, I was responding to Joni's comment about potential problems with traffic.
Oh.
I mean,
Which
it's
is-
not traffic for us. we're
It's
gonna-
mainly for Scott.
Yeah.
But what time is the eclipse happening?
It's at like 3 or
Are we
something.
still anticipating crazy traffic at 7 p.m.?
There- Well, there were experiences in other states a few years ago
No,
that
it's gonna be cloudy and nobody's gonna see
Well,
anything,
there's that.
so.
I'm just
Cloudy.
thinking-
It'll get dark for a few
The
seconds and
people-
then it'll all come
the
back.
thing
That'll
is,
be it.
they're expecting, in Ohio, they're expecting large numbers of people coming into Ohio from out of state.
Yeah.
They're coming into,
They know
Delaware.
something.
and then
Oh,
what's-
I bet if you check all the rooms, hotel rooms available in Delaware, they're probably all filled up. The campground is. All the campground.
the guy at the observatory is going to Texas because
They've
Better.
got better weather than.
they had better, because he wants to see it and he doesn't want to chance it, which is.
Why, yeah, why would you plan anything weather-based in Ohio? It seems questionable.
Well,
But they did say once it's over, everybody's gonna then disperse and go back to where they came from. That's. what-
Yeah, all the same.
Yeah, it may or it may not be cloudy that day. Chances are, more likely it will be cloudy versus not be cloudy. That's Ohio weather. But
Honestly, more my concern is I've seen how long it takes us to go over forms, and I bet you we can fill 2 hours going over that form.
all
And
right,
then we're gonna not have enough time for Scott.
Do we have that form? Did we get that?
well, it's one of the cheap.
Oh, is it this one?
My
No, not that
ability
one.
for extra meetings has gone downhill.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, is that the one?
I think it's working.
No,
fine.
that's
Yeah.
just. Don't
She
even
was
have
better
to-
last year,
No, it's not in
Not
that
in
packet.
there.
It won't be
This
in that
week,
packet.
she's been a little
Just-
touchy.
The only one you would have would be the one that, she sent to us electronically.
Okay.
So we gotta come back to that. I'm just trying to show we saw, leave it on the 8th. I mean, Scott,
What?
you're the one that's gonna have to travel down here.
And I don't mind that, but if there is something else that you guys need to talk about, I mean, I could work on even another thing, like the PUD or some other, the next section,
Mhm.
and have more to talk about in case we don't
And
fill the time.
in other words, have you
Wait
just
till May.
skip April and come back in May?
That'd be okay with me.
Yeah.
But
How insanely frustrated are you going to be if we merge with West?
I don't seem to be getting-
Right, why are we even doing this?
Our conversation about this damn meeting. Oh my God.
I don't see any support for an additional meeting.
no, but Mike,
No.
you're gonna be going on the 8th. And maybe we don't wanna hold that meeting to discuss all the forms. We'll push it back to the 22nd or whatever.
Passover
Well,
begins.
I always suggested the 22nd simply because it's a Monday.
I think forums are maybe easier to go over when Mike is not here than stuff in the resolution. I feel like we've done enough forms that we can get them locked down and he can just give input ahead of time, whereas this is fluid enough that he might want live input.
I agree. That's a good point.
So just work on
So
forms.
just work on forms.
On the
You'll have to
8th.
look
On
at
the 8th.
traffic,
The
to
8th,
reschedule.
exactly. I mean, you just work on forms on the 8th. Scott will come back at our first meeting or our second meeting in May. And just gonna look for the date. All of a sudden, I can't.
The
seem to
8th.
get my-
Oh, wait, no, May.
That would be the 13th.
May 13th.
May 13th, Scott, would be the next meeting. And you'll work on an additional, beyond the PCD.
If we're really on top of it with the forms, maybe we can do our meeting in an hour.
Oh.
Yeah, I would like the forms ahead of time. Whatever,
I already
whatever form,
emailed it.
Yeah.
okay,
I can resend it to you if you
Yeah.
want it.
All right,
yeah,
so that's settled. The agenda for the 8th will just be formed. And Scott will come back on the 13th with what we've worked on with Article 15. Articles 7 and 8, we're basically going to be finalizing. That's all. But that'll be on the 13th of May.
mhm.
And Scott, you can add an additional article that you can start working
Of
on.
my choice.
Yeah,
I think I'm zoning 3.
your choice. All right,
No, wait, I'm zoning.
so that's got us set up.
Yeah,
We're all set. And with that,
Make a motion, we adjourn.
we have, what are you holding up, Tom?
What was in this? You got Valerie, are these are our votes or are these? Are you doing current forms? I'm not sure.
Those are the current forms
These are.
That's what's on the webpage.
and they're on the website. And Brittany indicated earlier that she would work on the application for changes in the zoning map. She would work on making that form, set it up so that it would be, you could fill it out online and there would be drop-down boxes. She's gonna try to work on that. Get that in place. There won't be any changes other than just the way that the form will work online. Because right now it has to be printed and filled in manually. All right,
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion by Virginia and a second by Brittany to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Very good. Thank you all.
Thanks,
I'll
Scott.
see you April 1st, Fool's Day. We have a hearing that day too.
Yeah.
I
7.
hope it's better than it was the first time.
Did it come back in?
No, I haven't seen it yet. I'm sure it has.
I haven't seen it either.
No, no.
Are we gonna get it before?
We had told her